Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I hope you all have had a wonderful day today, enjoying these amazing sessions that we've just had. I again want to give a special thanks to all of our corporate sponsors and all attendees for coming. As we normally do every year, we always like to finish this summit by having a call to action. It's sort of like the state of LGBTQ plus entrepreneurialism as we come into the new year. So what I'm going to do is invite several different panelists or moderators, excuse me, one per each group, to come up, introduce themselves, describe the session or put the name for the session, and what are the key takeaways that we want to share with everybody else in the group. So now I'm going to invite Jules Allen. Jules, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Jules, yes. Yes. Could you quickly just tell us the name of your session and what are some key takeaways we can take for everybody to learn?
Sure. So I moderated the session called How to Navigate a Tech Startup as a Non-Technical Founder. And I had a really great discussion with three non-technical startup founders that kind of shared their experiences and what it was like to build their startups from the ground up without having that technical expertise. And one of the things that I took away from that is regardless of what industry they were coming from, they were really trying to make the world a better place with all of their different projects. And we talked about the inspiration behind all of these projects and some of the experiences that they went through trying to find talent, technical talent, and designers, developers, UI, UX, and sometimes it wasn't the easiest process to go through. Sometimes they had to outsource the talent from other countries. Sometimes they had to part ways with the people they were working with because it just didn't work out. So understanding all of their challenges and working through them is definitely a common theme that I learned from all of them. And one of a main takeaway that I learned from all of them was being patient through this process. Obviously creating a company from the ground up is definitely not easy. So I give them all of the credit for that, but definitely doing it without the technical expertise firsthand can be really challenging, trying to find the right teammates, trying to find people that can talk to investors from a technical perspective was also something they spoke about. But one of the panelists did say to me that sometimes in these situations, ignorance is bliss. And that's something that I, as someone that works in a technical industry, I can definitely empathize with. So I think it was a great session for sure.
Jules, thank you so much for sharing. Now I'm going to invite Max Khan. Max, can you come on and let us know a little bit more about the session and what are some key takeaways?
Of course. Thanks, Tony. I had a fantastic conversation with Kelly, AJ, and Alicia about the importance of showing up as your authentic self when pitching. And there were three main takeaways that I took from this great conversation. The first is that not all money is good money, right? And that your investors are going to be your long-term partners, and that it's critical for both founders and investors to ensure that there's value alignment prior to closing a deal. Despite how enticing that first offer might really be. And when somebody tells you no or that you can't do something, what they're really trying to say is that they just don't know how to help you. And sometimes it's okay to just accept that. The second takeaway was that there is a key funding gap on both sides of the table. And both underrepresented funders and founders can really benefit from coming together in order to drive success. The number one way to start raising is to just take the initiative and leverage resources like the StartOut portal, matching programs like Lolita and angel groups like Angels in order to start building your network with funders that can help scale your business. And last but not least is remembering that we're all human beings, right? So once you stop watching Shark Tank, you'll learn that many investors are actually really nice people. So take the time to learn about them, their background, what's their investment thesis, and tailor your pitch to show what you're passionate about. And you'll be able to successfully, hopefully, raise some capital.
Max, thank you so much for reporting. We appreciate your support. Now, next person is Sylvia Ma. Sylvia, how are you?
Oh, thank you. Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm actually not one of the moderators, but I was actually one of the speakers. And so I loved our session, which was Journey to Becoming an Angel Investor. So we had wonderful female VCs that have paved their way, are trailblazers in and of themselves. And there was about 4 takeaways. It was a great discussion about really making sure that you are the values alignment. We already talked about that a couple times in these recaps. Values alignment for that investor is super important. Elizabeth from SoGal Ventures said that really she wants investors to know that first check-in is so powerful. That is that first person who believes in that entrepreneur. And that's what really makes that magic happen between the investor and entrepreneur. So don't lose sight of that. She said, that makes those entrepreneurs launch and grow from that very initial seed check. Then we had Candice Morgan from Google Ventures that really was our moderator and really dove into this authenticity piece of being an investor, sitting right beside that entrepreneur, and actually for the investors out there to say, hey, we need to bound together. We need to really support each other. We all knew that we collaborated with each other because we learned from each other through education from 37 Angels, Pipeline Angels, from Golden Seeds, from so many different opportunities to engage in education and empowerment of investors, because it does make sense on the other side of the venture table. We need to support each other. And then lastly, we had Lorene Pendleton that really allowed us to remind ourselves that it's not about just the check. So that's she called it the 3 C's of capital. So there's financial capital, obviously the check or the wire that goes through, but don't forget about the human capital and the social capital as investors. Those are equally as important whenever you're having that investor relation. So the social capital is your network. Who can you introduce that entrepreneur to, especially underrepresented entrepreneurs that don't necessarily have that network, or they want to build that network even bigger. And that human capital of making sure that you're that advisor based on your expertise, what professionally or personal expertise that you can bring to that entrepreneur exactly when they need it. And then for me on that end is really making sure that we do have that values alignment, that as investors, we serve first, then we write checks, then we serve again and again as that entrepreneur grows in that scalable business. So it was a fantastic panel. Thank you.
Sylvia, voy a decirte muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much for your help. I appreciate it. Next person that we're going to reach out to is Irene. Irene, are you there?
Thanks,
Hey,
Tony.
Irene.
I'll be sharing a few takeaways from our panel, LGBTQ plus entrepreneurs are reshaping the economy. Our panelist, Nicola Corzine, talked about bringing equal access to resources for entrepreneurs. She's the executive director of the NASDAQ Entrepreneur Center, and they provide a whole slew of completely free resources, including training, mentoring, and networking for our entrepreneurs. And their work has helped create over 6,000 jobs, which was just really cool to hear. Our second speaker, Todd Sears, the founder and CEO of Out Leadership, has done a lot of research and advocacy work for LGBTQ identification to be included as a signal for diversity. So they've published their findings at outleadership.com/insights, and their content actually helped change both company and governmental policies as well. So it's really cool to hear. And our third speaker, Dr. Vivian Ming, the founder of Sokos Labs, talked about being present and being true to yourself and your passions. She talked about how everyone can feel empowered and know that you can take steps to make change, even if it's something as simple as being out in your organization. Just kind of the theme of our talk was how you can harness the power of research and data to drive change. So if anyone's interested in learning more about research or the StartOut Pride Economic Impact Index, feel free to find me at the after party. So back to you, Tony.
Irene, thanks for the plug-in. I appreciate it. Next person is Betty Wong. Hi, Betty.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I would love to hear more about your session and what are some key takeaways.
Okay, so I wasn't the moderator. I was actually one of the speakers. So
Okay.
the other two, so I'm Betty Wong. I'm with Stage 2 Startups, and we're hosting the first online Founders Over 40 conference. And that says something in itself. Our topic was ageism and entrepreneurship. So my two co-speakers were Chip Conley from the Modern Elder Academy and Jeff Tidewell from Next for Me. And basically, Jeff said, you know, ageism is very real. So we all have to just acknowledge it and then try to move forward from it. So we have some takeaways for how to do that. So the observation was that older people have potentially less tolerance for wasting time, but actually they're more considerate. So they understand about others and trying to engage them. The second was that there is a great opportunity for intergenerational cooperation and collaboration so that people can work together. And, you know, people who are older may be more diligent and slower in terms of getting stuff done. And people who are younger may be faster, but potentially have more mistakes. So basically, Chip said, if you bring the two groups of people together, then you have a win-win. Also, building diversity is really important, and not just limiting it to age or LGBTQ, but just to make sure that you have people of all different backgrounds, different colors, different races, and men and women together. Building diversity will actually benefit your organization. And we attach that to also the idea of reaching across the bridge to connect with others who may not know you, potentially to actually get to know each other, to help each other out. And the truth is that the research shows, government research as well as the MIT Harvard research shows that there's a higher likelihood of success growing with people who start later in life, just because they have more resources and more knowledge to contribute, and that you can be provocative and really break through and get people's attention. And sometimes you need to do that if you're doing something that is different, and to always be curious and try new things. And we talked about the fact that a lot of people think old people don't try new things, and that is totally not true. So definitely be curious and try new things is what we tell people to do of all ages. So in terms of what you're saying to do, in terms of actually going and have a call to action, I'm going to actually ask everyone to join us at the next week's Founders Over 40 Unconference. It's the link to sign up is actually at a bit.ly/BWGF little o40. And actually, if you sign on there, you can actually learn about social impact organizations. We're having those speakers actually come and talk next week. So we're really psyched to be part of the conference. All of my speakers were very psyched, fellow speakers, as well as the representative from AARP. So thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity.
Betty, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. And I also want to give a special shout out to AARP for being such amazing sponsors, and they're actually supporting StartOut by giving scholarships to 45 plus minority entrepreneurs and founders who need our support. So sincere thank you to all of you who have joined. The next person up to talk about, I believe it's session 6, is Krista Kilday. Krista, how are you?
Hi, Tony. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Tell us what you learned on session 6.
So session 6 was the unusual suspects, alternative avenues for funding. And I was not on the panel or anything, but I was able to just sit and hear the speakers discuss alternative avenues for funding. And they included Liz Scala, Cheryl Campos of Republic, and Dr. Roshana Novellis of Roshana Novellis of Enrich Her. And so often founders think that venture capital is the primary method of getting funded, but that's not actually the case. There are plenty of other avenues that founders can take. Those include revenue-based investment, crowdfunding, or equity crowdfunding, and of course, there's the old school bank loans, which Liz has experience in, and even talked about using her own invoices as collateral for those loans as a CPG company. So in terms of getting access to that other funding, there are a lot of other additional avenues that founders can take if they don't know where to quite start to get kind of in the process of seeking that funding. So the panel really talked about their experience and what helped them in their journeys as founders. And so their key takeaways or advice for founders who are seeking these kind of alternative avenues are to really leverage your community, try and find a mentor. We at StartOut have our own mentorship program. Enrich Her is a platform that helps connect underrepresented founders such as women and people of color get connected to capital. So leveraging those platforms as well is a good avenue. And then of course, just keep applying to pitch competitions, accelerator programs, all of those things can really help founders out when they're trying to look for access to capital. StartOut has our own accelerator program that we're currently accepting applications for, our Growth Web program. So if you go to our website, we encourage all LGBTQ founders to apply for that accelerator. But yeah, and if you want to watch the recording, it will be on our YouTube channel in a couple of days.
Great. Krista, you did a wonderful job just talking about StartOut, which was great stuff too. We appreciate all the marketing that we got from that in too. So I'm glad a lot of things we discussed about StartOut. So thank you so much, Krista. Much appreciated.
Yes.
And now I would like to invite Patrick Driscoll to come up. Patrick, how are you?
I am well, Tony. Thanks for having me. And it's my pleasure
Anytime.
absolutely, to discuss the Corporate Social Investor panel, how companies are supporting underserved founders. And I was fortunate enough to moderate a fantastic panel with Krista Long, who's Senior Vice President of Diverse Customer Segments and Small Business at Wells Fargo, Karen Hoskin, who's the founder and owner of Montana Distillers, and Aaron Shea, Director and Head of North America Marketing at Vistaprint. And the key takeaways really, one is that initiatives exist at the corporate level to really empower underrepresented entrepreneurship groups. You just have to know where to look. And internally, if folks are trying to create initiatives at their own corporation, their own team, doesn't have to be super big, could be something, even a startup, you can find data that will really back up claims that it's a win-win situation for both parties. It's profitable and it's also impactful. And for smaller businesses, they can lay the groundwork as they're scaling up and launching to really empower diverse practices and empower diverse teams. So that's going to scale normally with you, as opposed to going backwards and kind of enacting these activities as you have already grown. Another key piece, I mentioned data exists. However, as we see with the impact, what StartOut is doing with that report, there's also a huge gap. So there's underreporting of identification criteria for folks. So it is a little bit difficult to measure impact of these initiatives at the corporate level and what it's actually going at, and how to bring that into an actionable plan for these corporates. Finally, we discussed cultural moments, which was interesting since we all go to Pride and we all participate in things like Black History Month and Women's History Month and AAPI-AH Month, and even Indigenous Peoples Day occurred recently, and how corporates can proactively engage with these types of cultural iconic events and days. And the main takeaway there was that it had to be a touch point and a reminder of something that's already consistently happening. So it can highlight existing initiatives at the corporate level, but it shouldn't just be that one and done kind of situation that we've seen in the past. And I think that's about it. So thanks for having me. It's been a great event and can't wait to hear from the rest of the moderators.
Sounds good, Patrick. Thank you so much. Next person is Brianna. Radar, am I saying that correctly, Brianna?
Yeah, Radar.
How are you?
Yeah.
Radar, how are you?
Thank you. Yeah. So I was one of the 3 panelists on the Raising Intimacy talk. It was about what fundraising in the sexual wellness and sex tech industry is like. So we had Laura DiCarlo, who is a toy maker. It's a sex toy that does G-spot stimulation and oral stimulation with robotic technology. We had Rebecca from Bloomy, which is a sexual wellness marketplace where you can buy various like self-care and clean sexual wellness products. And then myself, my product is SlutBot. It's a bot you sext with to get different interactive erotic stories with a healthy sexual role model. And so the three of us talked about like various ways that we've dealt with fundraising. I think what was interesting is we talked about how sexual wellness has very specific, intense barriers to fundraising. One of it being that unfortunately a lot of investors and funds see it as a vice in the same way that they treat alcohol and cannabis and gambling. And so we talked about how that's starting to change, and some funds are removing their vice clause or removing at least the mention of sexual wellness from their vice clause. And we've seen a huge change in the past 5 years of investors getting more progressive on this topic. So we hope that fundraising in this space will increasingly become easier. And then we all shared tips for how we like navigate the space, and all of us have done different kinds of funding. For instance, Laura has gotten grants, Rebecca's done crowdfunding, and then a mix of angels and institutional funding, and just the importance of it's a network first industry, even if you do have traction, and then the bar being much higher for women in the sexual wellness place than other maybe consumer spaces. And so we just shared tips for fundraising in general, and the importance of networking and the importance of being like super authentic about your product and not watering it down just because maybe some people will see it as an edgy topic.
Brianna, thank you so much for sharing. You know what? If you're in Bend, Oregon, I miss that area of the country. So
yeah,
thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next person I have is Kelly Henry. Kelly? Hi, Kelly. How are you?
Hi. It's good to be here, Tony. So I'm Kelly Henry. I am on the Silicon Valley Bank Emerging Manager team, and I moderated our conversation, The Blueprint for Growth for Diverse VCs, featuring Vincent from Interlace Ventures, Christine from 500 Global, and Monique from Cake Ventures. Each of our panelists have a background launching their own firms, venture firms, and raising funds as VCs from traditionally underrepresented backgrounds. So it was great to get their perspective and insights and advice on the ecosystem. We talked about the rise of the emerging manager segment. So how many folks are first-time fund managers, and how important it is to the future of diversity in the community overall. We talked a ton of learnings from their experiences launching their firms. A couple of takeaways are the importance of knowing the LPs, know your customer, know the LPs that you're pitching, and make sure that that aligns with what your messaging looks like, and the importance of communicating your fund's differentiation. So those were sort of the two tidbits that stuck out to me. We also talked about the importance of the ecosystem at large, really sort of putting their money where their mouth is, if you will, when it comes to making change for the better and supporting diversity in the community. So it was a great conversation. Really appreciate the opportunity to moderate it.
Kelly, thank you so much. And also thank you and your colleagues at SVB for your tremendous support of StartOut and for the LGBTQ+ entrepreneurial community.
Oh yeah, great to be here. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you. Next person I have, and I believe it's last, is Sophia Ziskuk. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. Sophia, I chopped it. I know, my apologies.
No worries, Tony, you would not be the first. I'm Sophia Zizuk, close, rhymes with book. I'm the Director of Organizational Partnerships at Hello Alice, and I had the pleasure of moderating our panel on emerging trends in the future of LGBTQ entrepreneurship. We talked about a lot of really great meaty topics, you know, the fact that there's been huge strides made in LGBTQ investment, but one of our panelists, Dr. Nee from AARP, pointed out that there's still a lot of inequity for those who are disproportionately affected by setbacks like, say, the pandemic, right? Investing in businesses is only kind of one measure of progress. We talked about some of those investment trends being heavy in AI and fintech, but that there's ways to kind of make successful paths for yourself and create a successful business without being an investable business, as some of these other panels have talked about, right? For instance, if you're a nonprofit or socially minded organization, or maybe you're focused on brick and mortar business. We also talked a lot about, the focus on, there's a focus on LGBTQ business trends, but those are still affected by things like education and employment and funding. So, Paolo with Illyria had a great call out to his fellow non-queer supporters that acknowledged, acknowledging privilege and digging into that work on D&I is really crucial to continuing to make progress. And Ari from AWS also had some great things to say. He made a clear call to action around it never being a better time to become an entrepreneur. There's such a wealth of resources, technical access, and even international attention on the importance of small business. So with that, he said, dive in, don't wait for the invitation. Now is your chance. And with that, I'll also call out, Hello Alice, my organization, has tons of grants, guides, and other free resources specifically designed for small business owners and entrepreneurs. We're a proud partner of StartOut for that very reason. So if you are one of those people waiting for your invitation, that would be a great, I think, call to action is make use of these incredible organizations who are trying to give you resources and information. So it's a pleasure to be a part of it.
Sophia, thank you so much. I appreciate your support. Wonderful. So I want to say just a quick thank you to all the moderators who helped make these sessions happen. A lot of these moderators really worked hard to, in essence, help cultivate speakers to really get in deep with the topics and help create the questions. So I want to give a sincere thank you to all the chat moderators and panelists who could be able to make it today and take time off their busy schedule to attend. And now, for the Pioneer Award that's coming up very soon, I want to go ahead and welcome Chris Young, our StartOut Board Chair.
Good morning or afternoon or evening, everyone. I'm Chris Young, the board chair of StartOut, and thrilled to see and hear all the exciting speakers today. Thank you all so much for joining us. It is now my special honor to introduce this year's StartOut LGBTQ+ Pioneer Award that recognizes the achievements of an outstanding individual in our joint fight for equality in the entrepreneurial world. It is my great pleasure to introduce our awardee, Bradford Shellhammer. Today, Bradford is the GM of eBay New York City and eBay's Vice President of Buyer Experience, a leading product visionary in the company. eBay early on recognized his visionary talent and passion for equality and named him the product leader for eBay for Charity that directed over $1 billion to charities around the world. Prior to eBay, Bradford was one of Fast Company's 100 most creative people in business and coined the King of Quirk by Forbes magazine and the Eames of e-commerce by Wired. He was the out and proud founder of Fab.com, Bezar, and Queerty, and has won 3 Webbies. In his spare time prior to COVID, you could find Bradford singing in a rock band. Bradford has never shied away from being his true self, out and proud and vocal, and his work as a role model for our community has helped pave the way for our LGBTQ+ entrepreneurs to pursue their dreams that were once considered limited or unattainable. In addition, by helping our entrepreneurs enter new markets, he has pushed the LGBTQ+ movement to significantly advance StartOut's mission to drive economic empowerment for our whole community. All of us here know that there's still a lot of work to be done, but outstanding leaders like Bradford make me feel optimistic that with passion and dedication and grit like his, we can achieve our goals even faster than we may expect. I want to thank Bradford for being such a powerful, relentless, and witty long-term advocate for the LGBTQ+ movement. Please give a special virtual round of applause to Bradford Shellhammer, the winner of StartOut's 2021 LGBTQ+ Pioneer Award.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Hi, I'm Bradford. I'm in the office. This is super cool. While I was listening to all of the speakers talk a little bit ago, it was literally like my life story flashing before my eyes. And, I was a non-technical founder that achieved, fame overnight, more or less, and then it was taken away from me. But I know that struggle. I'm someone that's unapologetically myself, showing up to, Fortune 500 company meetings with neck tattoos and always being unapologetically queer. And now I'm 45 years old, so I'm in that bucket of the starting to be the older folk and understanding kind of the struggles of that and trying to relate with younger people and inspiring them to be themselves and what they can untap with their life. There was something that Betty said about dedicating your life to trying new things that really resonated with me, and my whole life's been dedicated to that. There's been times in later years. I started a company when I was in my 30s. I went back to grad school after 10 years of not satisfying myself professionally. I learned to cook. I learned to garden. I learned to fly fish over the years, and it's been, I think, the secret to my success has been one that's just I always want to meet new people and see new places and do new things, and that's led me to just an amazing path. And so I really thank StartOut. There wasn't as much visibility as I started my companies in the past, and it's just nice to be now at a giant tech company that embraces and celebrates diversity. It's part of eBay's core and mission from day one. And I just I hope that like other people have this amazing journey that I've had, that's been up and down, and more times down probably than up, but one that's just been unapologetically me. And so thank you, StartOut, for helping other people find their voice and getting bootstrapping their businesses and getting off the ground. I'm very, very honored and just really thankful for this this award. Thank you.
Bradford, thank you so much for being a testament to all of us in the LGBTQ plus movement. We really appreciate your support, and so thank you. Well, everyone, this sort of concludes our second annual StartOut Equity Summit. We have our after parties going on right after this, so you just can keep on scrolling down and either go to the general party or the VIP party, depending on your selections. And then after that, if you feel comfortable, you can also go scroll down more, keep on scrolling, and you can go to our corporate booths. And then also, if you want to learn more about StartOut and StartOut's Growth Lab, all the information is there. On behalf of the over 18,000 StartOut members worldwide, our host committees, our staff, everyone who could make this event happen, a sincere thank you to all. Without your support, we couldn't do the work that we do. So thank you all so much, and I wish you all a great afternoon and look forward to seeing you all soon.